You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. It's your host, Brian Fullerton here, hanging out with you guys, and welcome back to the podcast. We had a couple-week hiatus here where we took off for the holidays and New Year. So first off, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year to all of you guys listening to the show. We're going to be kind of catching our stride here over the next month or two as we, start bringing another podcast or two per week to, just start ramping back up. And before you guys know it, we'll be back into the regular season here. So I just want to say Happy New Year to all of you guys. Hey, we have a great podcast ahead of us. I just know it because I know the guest that we have on today. And without any filibustering or any, extra chattering that you guys know I'm used to, I want to introduce you guys to a really good friend of Liz and I's, and then also a professional, resource for us as well as our realtor. But I got Trisha. Is your last name Dork, right, Trisha?
It is.
We got Trisha Dork on the podcast with us, and we're going to be talking about goal setting. So, Trisha, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I am fantastic. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you today about this.
Absolutely. So if anybody has watched our second channel, Fullerton Party of Two, they saw that we did a podcast or a YouTube video, I should say, maybe about July, August, September, whatever it was, when we closed on the land, which, by the way, before we go way down the rabbit hole talking about goal setting and vision and all this other fun stuff today, I want to say a big thank you again for being our realtor of choice. You seriously found our dream property. We were so excited, so happy, still are, and we just couldn't thank you enough. So thank you for all of the help later this summer. It was really, really appreciated.
You're welcome. Real estate is definitely a passion of mine, and I love it because exactly what you guys are doing. I get to watch people's dreams become reality, and it's just so fun to be a part of.
Heck yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Why don't you give everybody your stats? Maybe, take a minute or two. Maybe I always say, give them the vitals, like your background and what you got going on today, just so people can get to know you a little bit more before we jump on into our topic.
Yeah, absolutely. I own a real estate company, Elite Realty. Everybody pretty much knows that, but what not a lot of people know is I actually own 3 other companies. So I own a title company, a homeowners insurance company, and also an online fitness and nutrition coaching company. So I have all of these companies that I'm running, and at the same time, I am a very active mom. So I have 2 kids at home. I also had a billet son at home, which means we had a kid from another state come and live with us. Before that, my sister lived with me, and before that, my husband's oldest son. So I'm a mom of many kids and very popular kids, so they always have friends over. So I always have a house full. I'm always on the run and just trying to fill all those buckets with success at the same time, and find that work-life balance that we're all searching for, right?
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, we fell in love with you way before you sold us a house because Liz, I don't know how, but somehow it's through social media. So shout out to social media and doing business with Facebook and Instagram and, just keeping as many, fishing lines and lures in the water we always talk about. Liz followed you, and I got to ask Liz the story. Maybe we should have got her on the podcast, but somehow she was following you and she's like, you got to follow this lady. She's a realtor. I think she could sell us a home one day or our land, but you should see her. She's got a successful family. Her kids are achievers. She's an overachiever. She's in the fitness. She's a Grant Cardone, 10X kind of a person as well. And honestly, it was just so fun to have that conversation with you when we first made a phone call to you, because we were like, hey, not to be weird, but we followed you on the internet for 3 months. And we're like, you seem like a successful person, and we're trying to buy a house and some land, and we don't even know what we need or want, but we think we have some ideas. And how long was our introductory phone call with you for the real estate? Was it hour, 2 hours, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. It was well into 2 hours. I'm just we are going to be the best of friends. And I know we just talked for 2 hours on the phone. And we didn't talk on the phone anymore, right? It's usually 3 texts and you're done.
Yeah.
And we're hey, here's our entire life.
Oh my
Yay.
gosh. We laughed so hard after that. I was like, look, this lady is like coming to the baby shower once we have a baby. She's coming to my kid's graduation, like best friends, you know what I'm saying? And so long story short, for all of you guys listening in, I love to have guests on, of course, from the lawn and landscape industry. I love to have friends and coaches and mentors of mine that have made an impact in my life. And here's the deal. We just went into 2021 and we're all talking about goal setting. We're all talking about fire breathing, trailblazing. We're gonna crush 21. Maybe some of you guys, crushed 2020. Maybe you got sucker punched in 2020. Some of us did. One of my businesses blossomed. One of my businesses took it on the chin. We still had a great year overall. But if you're anywhere between that spectrum, I think we all learned a lot in 2020. And I think 2021, if you want, can be the best year of your life. And we always say that. Everybody's got that optimistic attitude, January 1st, 2nd, 3rd. But what I want to do is show you somebody, and she's very humble, and she'll say, I'm not that big of a deal. But if you go to Trisha Dork, on her Facebook, maybe add her, by the time you're done with this podcast, you should see what she accomplished in 2020. She's not bragging, but she crushed her workouts. She crushed her sales goals. She crushed her church, attendance goals. All these great goals, family, business, finance, we always talk about having the full picture. And so we're gonna kind of crack that egg open, peel back those layers of the onion, if you will. And I want to just interview her. How did you have such a great 2020? Because I know that if you are a person of habits and a person of action, that you are going to have a tremendous life and lifestyle. And I personally, honestly, I was like, well, I could talk about goal setting and all this stuff, but here's the deal. This lady is crushing it. And she just happens to be a good friend of ours. She happens to be our real estate agent. And so here's what I'm going to do. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to get the glorious a sip of water, Trisha. It's kind of like my awkward transition, right? And then we're going to come on back. We're going to let Trisha just take the mic and just talk to us about business, success, vision, and goals. And I couldn't find a better person to talk to you guys about this topic. So let's do this. I'm going to get a quick sip of water here, and we will join you guys right back in just a quick second.
Expedite your productivity. Introducing CartMate Pro and RS by Dawson Manufacturing. This industry-leading front-mounted zero-turn articulating cart mounts to the front of the mower you already own, making you more profitable. With the ability to move mulch, leaves, dirt, and much, much more 2 to 3 times faster and dump your load effortlessly, you'll increase productivity while reducing labor costs. What could you do with the extra time? I'm sure your wife has an idea. Order your CartMate Pro today at mulchmateusa.com and never wheelbarrow again. That's mulchmateusa.com or text Labor Saver to 31996. That's Labor Saver to 31996 for exclusive deals, info, and maybe even some freebies. Normal text messaging rates apply. Britt Dowd is no stranger to the lawn care industry. He's the owner of a fast-growing 7-figure lawn care business in the Midwest and host of the Lawn Care Leaders podcast, featuring lively discussions and deep dives into the lives of successful business owners all across the green industry spectrum. These conversations provide action steps on how to improve your business, personal life, spiritual, and physical well-being. When you subscribe to the Lawn Care Leaders podcast and leave a 5-star review with your Instagram handle in the review, you're qualified to win the Lawn Care Leaders Appreciation Package. This comes loaded with swag from Jobber, free shoes by Cujo, and a safety pack courtesy of Ballard Products. Now, if you can't leave a review at Apple Podcasts, just screenshot the app that you're listening on, post it to IG with the hashtag Lawn Care Leaders Podcast, and you'll automatically be entered for a chance to win. More details available on the Lawn Care Leaders Podcast with Britt Dowd.
Lawns, lessons, and live. This is the Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast. Now, your host, Brian Fullerton.
All right, good deal. We'll always appreciate Marty, Mr. Producer, bringing you guys the show announcements and the show sponsors. And God, it feels good to hear his voice after about 3-week hiatus over here. So, all right, well, enough of me kind of just talking and just small talk, if you will. Let's just get into the thick of it, into the meat of it. Trisha, I want to kind of just give you a little bit of an open mic. We don't have like a formal note list here or agenda list, but I know you said you were jotting down a couple things. Let me ask you this. Where do people start with setting goals and setting vision for their life? I mean, you had a great year last year. A lot of people are trying to set goals for this year. Where would you suggest they start, or what's worked best for you?
So I would say what's worked best for me is to sit down and think big picture, like you said, like, what is the vision of my life? Like, what do I want my life to look like in 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, 3 years? And then kind of bring that down very small to what do I want the next year to bring me? And what buckets do I need to fill to make that happen? So for me, I use 3 tools that are all free throughout every single year. And that really set up the framework to be able to have a very successful 2020. And those 3 tools are one piece of paper. It's a Word doc. It's called the 411 sheet. I use a big calendar, a big desk calendar for my family. And then me and my husband have our Google calendars synced up. So I started goal setting with the 411 sheet. And the 411 sheet is set up so that the first thing you do is sit and think about your why, right? Maybe you've heard people say, well, what's your why? Or maybe you haven't. But I sit and I think about, okay, why am I even working, right? Like, why do I get out of bed every day? Why am I going to go and grind and hustle and do all these things? Like, why? What's the purpose of it all? What's the purpose of my life? You know, I was listening to a podcast one day when I was running, and it was a pastor, a sermon that I was listening to, and he said, wouldn't it be wonderful if we just woke up and we're like, this is the purpose of my life. I know what the purpose of my life is. And I sat down and I'm like, well, why don't we really sit and think about what the purpose is of our life? So I spent the rest of my run like really thinking about that. Like, what is the purpose of me grinding every day and working hard every day? Because at the end of the day, like, you know, it's kind of crazy to think about our own mortality as young as we are. But at the end of the day, once you're gone, everybody's just like, hey, where's the fried chicken? You know, you don't really have to go out and do all these hard things if you don't want to. But if you have a purpose behind it and you have a really strong why, that will drive you. That will set you on fire on those days when you're not feeling it or it gets hard or you're in the middle of a pandemic. So the first thing I really had to think about was my why. And a lot of people, they want to say like, you know, the box things like, oh, because I want financial freedom or because I want to travel the world. Well, what does financial freedom mean to you today? For some people, it might be, well, when I hit 6 figures. Okay, so when I hit 6 figures, then what? Then I'm done. I don't do anything else, you know? So you really have to dig through those layers. So if I start with my why is financial freedom, I'm going to ask myself, well, why? Well, because I grew up very poor. Okay, so why did that bother you? Well, because I had no control over anything that I did in life. Okay, so what is my real why? Well, my real why in that scenario is because I want to have full control of every aspect of my life. I want to live in joy, not in fear. So I really, when I sit down and I ask myself why, and I do this every year because my first 411 sheet that I made back in 2013, when I was introduced to this, I did this purely for business with 2 colleagues of mine. We sat down and said, okay, we're going to do this 411 sheet. And I thought about my why. And I didn't dig 7 layers deep. And then I learned about doing that. And so each year I sit down and say, is this still my why? Or has my why changed over time? And it has changed. And now it has more to do with, instead of just financial freedom, into leaving a legacy and really digging in on that. So we start with that why, and we try to dig 7 layers deep and cross off our first thing and write another thing. And then think about that and cross that off and write another thing and think about that. And I mean, some people, they'll say, oh, because I want to give my kids the life I never had. Well, heaven forbid something happens and your kids aren't here anymore. Do you just stop living? So you really got to think about that why. And is that really your purpose? And is that going to keep driving you year after year after year? And did that change from last year to this year? Because as our kids get older, like my kids are getting older, my son, he turned 17 in a couple of weeks. He doesn't need me like he needed me when he was 7, you know? So my why might not be to be a great mentor for my little children, because they might not need me as a mentor anymore because they're grown up and they're out of the house. So kind of building your why around your purpose instead of around the people around you or maybe the first thing that pops in your head.
That's good. That's
so
great. That's
we
really
start
good.
with why.
Okay.
Thank you.
Really quick, is 411 like, is it like 4 things, 1 layer deep? Is there anything that means 411, or is it like just some guy's program, or what does 411 mean anything in particular? Like,
yes. So 411, you have your 4 quarters of the year. And then we're going to have, you have one box. So it's really the way the sheet is set up. So you have one box for your yearly goals. You have one box for this month that we're talking about. And then you have 4 weeks that you break it down to. So after we discover our why, there's another box underneath that where we write down our 1 year goals. So the goals we want to hit for 1 year. And then underneath that, the month that we're in, we write down that month's goals. And then we break that out into 4 weeks. So what steps am I doing week 1? What steps am I doing week 2? What steps am I doing week 3? What steps am I doing week 4 that get us to that month goal? And then those month goals translate into the year's goal. So that's kind of the 411, your 4 weeks, your 1 month, your 1 year, and then you start with why. And the sheet is broke down into half is for business and half is for personal. So at my office, we know that you have to live a well-rounded life. So you can't just set goals in business and let your marriage, go to shambles. And you can't just kill it in business and let your health go to shambles. And it has to be well-rounded. So when we set our goals, we say, these are our goals for the year in our business. These are our goals for the year in our personal. And then this is what we're going to do this month that's going to move the needle forward for those goals. And this is what we're going to do for the week. So you have a clear roadmap to get to the end. And that is really what's crucial, because I can say something simple like, in 2020, or 2021, I'm going to lose weight. But how am I going to get to losing weight? I have to have very specific, people talk about SMART goals, right? They're specific, they're measurable, they're attainable.
I just did a podcast on this like 2 weeks ago. I use SMART goals. So go figure.
Yes. Perfect. So they're realistic and they're time bound. So when I write down my yearly goals, I usually have between 5 and 7 yearly business goals. I have between 5 and 7 personal goals. And then I break that down and I'll put the dates next to them. So I know this is what I'm working in quarter 1. This is what I'm working on in quarter 2. And then I can break that down into, okay, this is what I need to do this week. So for example, my agents may have, so for my yearly, I want to have a gross commission of $500,000. Okay, well, we got to break that down. How much do you need to make each month to get to that? Okay, so this is my monthly goal for my commission. All right, well, how do you get to those commissions? Well, I need to make, 100 sales calls a day. I need to do door knockers. I need to go and network at these different things. So we break that backwards. And we do that for our business. We do that for our personal. And what happened was, after doing this 411, for, I think I did it from 2013 to 2019. So for 6 years, I realized, wow, every single thing I write down, I'm doing. And I started with easy stuff. Like some of my personal goals, it's almost embarrassing to say, but like there were some months I remember very specifically, like my personal goal was like to organize my son's dresser drawers.
Yeah.
Like they're just a mess, but these little things add up to big things. And when you conquer little goals like, hey, I organized all of the rooms in my house. When I wake up in the morning and I go into my closet and it's nice and neat and organized, I start my day in calm instead of chaos of, oh my gosh, I have to find this business suit for this meeting that I have today, right? Mm-hmm. So you really start with those small things and work your way up to bigger goals. And when I realized that, okay, I write these out, I keep myself accountable. And that's the other thing, right, is staying accountable. So we call it the 411 accountability meeting every single week. So every Tuesday at 2:00, I know that I have to go in front of my whole company. I have to sit around the table and I have to say, I either did these things that I said I was going to do for the week or I didn't. And I will tell you, there was no way as the leader of my company that I was going to come in and say, I didn't have time to organize my kids' sock drawers, so I just didn't do it.
That's awesome.
Literally, I adopted the mantra, and you can ask everybody around my office, like, if it's on the 411, it must get done. And then I brought that home, and I'd be like, Trent would be like, it's 2 a.m., Mom. What are you doing in my room? And I'm like, I have to organize the sock drawer. So
well,
I became obsessed with it,
That's so good. Like, I know you're not a regular listener of our show. And I don't expect it to be because it's funny. Like, we talk lawn care and landscaping, but we do talk about business and success. And if anybody's like listening in, they're a regular listener of the show, you've got to see the parallel in what Trisha has been saying and what I've been trying to preach. And not at you guys, but with you guys. Like Liz and I, Trisha, we have what we call board of directors meetings, and we do them on Sunday afternoons. And we literally, the exact same thing. It's accountability meeting. It's exactly what you're talking about, similar but different. And Liz and I, like we take our marriage hat off, we put our business owner hats on, we come together. Hey, what did we do last week? What did we say we were going to do last week? What are we doing next week? Whose roles? Who's got what? Who's blocking? Who's tackling? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? And I think if people could just have those weekly meetings, here's what I'll say. Me personally, and many people have said this, it's hard to stay focused for a year. And frankly, it's hard to even stay focused for a quarter or a month. Many people have said that. Many people know that. But I love what you said about winning the week or winning the day. I mean, it's deciding those little actions every single day. And people just want the silver bullet. How do I get 6-pack abs? How do I put $100,000 in the bank? How do I, double my business, right? All these things. And I've preached on blue in the face, Trisha, to my audience. I said, look, figure out how you want to live and then work backwards. Break it down into daily, weekly, monthly goals. And for me, I know it's really hard for me to be able to control results. But what I can control are my actions and my attitude. We've all heard this out of every success book, right? So Trisha can't necessarily guarantee she'll make $400,000 next year as a realtor, but she can guarantee that she makes 80 phone calls a day, 20 emails a day, and 10 door knocks a day, right? And that's the exact same thing I implore you guys to do. I can't, guarantee that you'll make $300,000 next year cutting grass and landscaping, but I can guarantee that you'll get really damn close if you pass out your postcards, make your phone calls, do 3 or so estimates a night. Exactly what we're talking about. You don't just wind up December 31st, 2021 with 6-pack abs. It's because you did 20 to 50 crunches every day for 300 plus days of the year or whatever, right? So I love what you said about the 401. There's 10 different ways to set goals, and I'm always curious what's working for people. Can you do this? Here's what I want folks to look forward to if you apply what Trisha's talking about, SMART goals and her 411 system. Talk about last year's success, Trisha, because that's the fruit. Everybody wants the result. They want the money, the health, the wealth, the family relationships. So talk to you. I mean, you can brag for a quick minute. It's okay with me. Like, you had a banger year and you should be proud of it. We celebrate success on this podcast.
Thank you. Yes. So what I did was when I realized that the 411 works so well, I brought that home with me, but I made it so that all of my family could get involved, right? So I have a son, like I said, he's going to be 17. I have a daughter. So in 2019, when he was 15 and she was 10, I realized okay, well, Mom's out here doing all these things. Like, how does this translate home? Because the thing is if your home is successful, you're going to be able to be even more successful in your business. So we got a big giant desk calendar and we decided okay, what buckets are important for us as a family to be the needle mover? So we decided on church, workout, family fun. So things we did together, right? Books we read, giving back to charity, and then having one big push goal. So our goal in 2019 was to buy our dream house. So that was something all the family had to get on board with, that I was going to crush it at work. My husband was going to crush it. My kids were going to do everything they were going to do. We were going to get on a budget, which was a big deal for our family because we love to just go on Amazon and click away.
Sure.
And we were like, okay, hey, if we all, as a family, we hit these goals, we buy this house, we do our workouts, we go to church, we do our family fun, we do our books, we do our charity, then we can go on a trip to anywhere in the world that you want to pick. So my daughter got to pick. In 2019, she picked Disney World. And it was really funny because my son wasn't home when we set the goals. So we sat at home at first, our first year. And I was like, okay, how many workouts am I going to do? And I always, me and my son, Trent, he plays hockey. So we're big into workouts. My daughter, she loves to read. So her and me, I like to read. We're big into we're big into reading. So I had to be like, okay, me and Angelina are going to read all these books. Trent, can you at least read like three books? Read 3 books for us, And Angelina was like, I don't like to work out. And I'm like, okay, how about you agreed to, go out and ride your bike every day? Like if you could just go out and do a bike ride every day for 20 minutes, Dad will go with you. You can contribute, because I wanted everybody to contribute to every bucket. So we did that. We set our goals. And then my son came home in the middle of it and he's like, we can do more than that. And so he made us actually push all of our goals up. So in 2019, our goals were to do 1,000 workouts, read 70 books, have 48 family fun days, go to church 52 times, and buy our house. And
holy cow! Hold on, girl. Like you got to realize, like, I'm so motivated and encouraged by this. Hopefully my listeners are listening to, like, one more time, because I'm telling you, I saw your Facebook post and I literally texted you 10 minutes later. I said, holy shit. I said, Trisha, one more time. I said, what did you accomplish as a family again? Like, this is insane. Like, this is so impressive to me. Like, I'm so proud of you guys. Not that you need that, but I'm so proud of you guys. I just love seeing people win. So what was your 2019 goals again as a family?
Yeah. So 2019 was to do 1,000 workouts. And we actually ended up doing 1,350. So we exceeded our 1,000 workout goal, which at first when me and my husband said it, we were like 900. And then Trent came home and was like, let's do 1,000. And then we did 1,350, which was mind blowing, because we were like, how can we even do 1,000? And then we exceeded it. And here's the cool part, Brian. For 2020, we were like, all right, so we exceeded it last year. Let's set this up. We'll set it for 1,350 for 2020. And we exceeded it again. In 2020, we did 1,552 workouts as a family.
Jeez, Pete. God, that's so awesome.
Gym's closed.
I know. I'm like so excited for you guys. Holy cow. I'm like, I wish my family was that successful. Like, but this is what I'm looking forward to with our family. So 1,500 workouts. I saw you guys did church.
We did 1,552 workouts.
Yep.
Church. So we wanted to be intentional about church, and there's 52 weeks in a year. So we're like, okay, let's get to 52 churches. And I will tell you, this is kind of a funny story. In 2020, that was actually the bucket that we were traveling a lot for hockey in 2019, and we had set 52 church goals for 2019, and we were just traveling and like crazy for hockey. So we weren't in town, and I was very specific in that we had to be in church 52 times, not just watch it online,
right. But
we as a family, all of the members of our family had to go to church 52 times. So we got to December, and we had 13 church services to go to still. And I'm like, how are we going to go to church 13 times in December? And it was like, God planned it like that, though, because there's no better place to be around the Christmas season. So we went to like 3 churches on Christmas Eve. We went to 3 churches on Christmas Day. We went to 2 churches on New Year's. And it was the most amazing thing, because that's what the season is about. And that's where we were. And it was the best Christmas season. And like I said, it was like God planned it like that. We were like, how do we go to church 13 times? There's only 4 weeks. And we did it, and we accomplished it. And it was so much more fulfilling than just checking off the box. It was like a game changer for Christmas to just be in worship all those times in that season and see all of these different churches around our area and be able to connect with new people and just be all in on that goal. So it was really magical.
Well, that's so awesome. And seriously, like I'm impressed. Like that is so awesome. And it's one of those things too, where, I mean, imagine, like you said, your mental health, your happiness, your joy, like nobody's going to rock your ship, like, oh, there's a vaccination available. Oh, there's not. Or this presidential guy won, or this guy didn't. Like all these different circumstances of life, like the prevailing winds just blowing around. But you guys are steadfast. You guys have goals, daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals, and you guys probably didn't care what's happening in the world. You guys had a family mission that you guys were trying to make happen.
Yeah, it's like you mentioned earlier, when COVID happened, it was a devastating time for us because my husband lost his job, and that meant we lost our health insurance, and real estate had to completely close down. So we were sitting here like, we have zero. We have no money. Now we have our dream house. How do we pay for it?
Sure.
What do we do? And we had to sit down, and I'm like, you know what? All we can control is the controllables, right? So what can we control? We can control ourselves. So we got in a couples Bible study. I got in a women's Bible study. My husband got in a men's Bible study. We put our kids in a kids Bible study Zoom. We got on our workout Zooms. We ran as a family. Like, all we could control was ourselves. And since we had this plan, we just filled those buckets. We read our books. Me and my husband, we would sit at night and read a personal development book together and then talk about it. Like, okay, what can we take from this? How can it help with the job search? How can we dig in and figure out a way to get good insurance for our family? And, we just plugged into, these are the buckets that we know are most important, and we're going to have faith that God's going to work out the rest. And he did. It worked out so amazing in the fact that, like I said, we exceeded all of our goals. We read more books. Our goals were to read 70 books, and then it was to read 102 books. We ended up reading 109 books.
Wow.
So we learned so much from that. And then our family activities together, we're like, hey, we can control what we do at this time. So we ran virtual 5Ks for charity together. We were intentional about finding time to play games together, go on bike rides together. And it just ended up being this amazing thing. And what I realized was I also go to school. I go to U of M working on my degree. And it was crazy because I got an email that says, hey, because I actually had told U of M and said, I'm not going to go. COVID happened. We don't have the money. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not going to go. And then I sat there and I'm like, you have came too far to let your kids see you quit now. So I emailed them. I'm like, never mind, I'm going. And the next day I got an email saying, because you go to school, you're going to get health insurance for $1,700 for the whole year. And I'm like,
dang, that's awesome.
So because I stayed steadfast in that goal, God worked it all out. So we had health insurance. Because my husband wasn't working a job he hated, he was able to stay home with us, pick up on a bunch of stuff for my business. So taking our listing photos, doing our agent headshots, and it all ended up because we kept the faith and because we stayed steadfast to all of our goals and all of our intentions and all the things we set out to do. And because we stayed accountable. So at the end of every month, we sit together and we go through what have we done for the month. So I break it all up into we need to do this every month, but then we sit together and we go, okay, we read this many books, we did this many workouts. Okay, next month we got to up the books we read, or we need to make sure that we go to an extra church service, or we need to make sure that, hey, we really shrink this budget, because for this year it was eliminate the $40,000 worth of credit card debt we got from filling up our new house. So
right.
It's like, how do you eliminate $40,000 worth of credit card debt when nobody has a job and nothing's going on? So it was just being very intentional, controlling those controllables, and just staying steadfast and checking in with each other, holding each other accountable, and then taking it a step further and making it public. So why you know about my goals is because I'm very public with this is what I'm going to do. And I do that for a reason, because if I put it out in the world and the whole Facebook world knows about it and my family knows about it, not only does that make me feel like I can't quit because it's expected,
sure,
it brings everybody else in on my journey, right? So when I went to our late Christmas, New Year / my son's birthday yesterday, everybody was talking about my big push goal for this year, which is to compete 52 times. So I'm going to go into 52 competitions to win 52 medals, be it racing, CrossFit competitions, whatever it is. And my whole family knew about that because they watched me on Facebook, and that's what they were talking about. So now that makes me feel that accountability that no matter what happens, I have to figure out a way to make that happen, right? So I'm accountable to not just myself, because it's easy to let down yourself, right? We've been doing it our whole lives. Diet starts Monday. Oh, nobody will know if I eat this cheesecake. Well, now everybody has these expectations. Nobody asks me if I want cake at the Christmas party or at the work party. They know Trisha has these goals and she sticks to these goals no matter what. So we're not going to try to get her off track. We want to support her in those goals. So you get this whole new support system and accountability system and layers of accountability. So it's like literally you're not allowed to fail, because you've already set up, this is what's going to happen when we succeed.
That's so good. I mean, literally, like I sometimes I get podcast guests where I'll just like, I got to like string them along. Like, hey, let me ask you some questions. And then other guests, I'm like, here, I'm just gonna hit record. I'll come back in 45 minutes. We'll button it up, and you can just do all the talking. And like, you are a fire breathing buck. I literally texted my wife. I said, Trisha is a effing beast, is what I just texted my wife. And she goes, she's in the other room here. She hears me upstairs, and she's like, I know. And so we're like so excited for you, motivated for you and by you. And it's funny. Like, I love what you're talking about, though. Like, you know, your net, what do they say? Your network is your net worth. We've always heard these things. And, you know, you could have just, like you said, rolled over and wet on yourself and said, oh, like, all this is happening to me in March, April, May. Like many people, like, you know, COVID flipped the world upside down. But you didn't. Like, imagine how much more networking opportunities you have. Imagine how many more ways to connect with other folks when you start putting yourself out there and you get to know these people and you go to all these places and you do all these things. Like, you know, I love what you said, like, about making your goals public. There's two trains of thoughts. Don't tell people what you're going to do because they'll criticize you. And then tell people what you're going to do. And then they can just laugh, poke, fun. But then they're going to get on your team and then they're going to be like, oh, I always knew you'd make it. Right. And
yeah, absolutely.
I love what you said there because something I did for like the last 5 years, Trisha, and you even know this a little bit. It was like, I wanted to get a Tesla and I was like, I'm going to get this car. And people would like be like, oh yeah, like YouTube, right? Like, and I'm like, yeah. But if I just bank it and, you know, I just picked up my car a week ago and it took 5 years to get there. But every other 4, 5, 10 videos and 4, 5, 10 podcasts, I'm talking about getting something that I wanted. And it's hard to stay like that committed to something for that long. And I was like, you know, it didn't matter what was going on, the ups, the downs, the haters, the encouragers. Like, I was like, dude, I'm doing this for me. And I put it out there. I'm like, I'm going to get a Tesla one day. And I'd have people come out of the woodwork and criticize. But I had 100 times more people come out of the woodwork and say, dude, thanks for changing my business, changing my life. I hope you get yours because you've helped so many people. And dude, you deserve that car more than anybody. And you love that feedback. And literally, we got it a week ago and I had 5,500 likes on the photo on Instagram. That's insane. That's insane. Like times more likes than I've ever gotten on a photo, and like 450 comments of people saying, "Dude, like proud of you, excited for you." And so I'm in the same boat with you. Like, I like making my goals public, talking about what I'm going to do. Liz and I were like, we want to build this baller home this year. That's going to make me be accountable to perform, to make the damn money, to go build the home. I don't want to be like, hey, we're going to build this, really nice home. And then like 2 years from now, people are like, hey, dude, I thought you were building this home. Like, I don't work that way. Like, I'm not going to be disappointing you guys. I'm not going to be disappointing me. And I love what you said, by the way. One thing I just wanted to pull out of what you were just talking about was, I do agree that, like, by default, most people, and this isn't a judge on anybody, but I've also seen and realized that most people by their own accord are pretty weak. I know I am. By myself, I can be pretty weak. But when I'm in a group or a team or accountable to my wife, my God, my pastor, my mentor, pick your person, I feel like so many of us can rise to the challenge, rise to the occasion. We can overcome circumstances because we don't want to let that person down that we revere, love, respect. And there's a lot of like merit to that. If you go back to this podcast and listen to what Trisha said, she's like, I put this out there on the internet. You know, like Liz and I, like we're, four people removed, if you will, from like Trisha. Like we barely know each other except for she was a real estate agent. But we've become best friends over the last 6 months because I'm talking to her and she's encouraging me, and we do text like outside of selling us a home or land 5 months ago. So it's like we're encouraging her, she's encouraging us, and you might think that's kumbaya, but look, the result is what we're looking for. And I don't care how you get to the finish line, just get to the finish line. Hey, Trisha, I want to kick it back to you. And also to respect your time. I know you and I could talk about this all day. We've first off, I want to invite you back on the show. I don't know if it's in the spring or the summer, but I'm just going to hit record sometime in June, and you can talk for an hour, and then we'll just bundle that up and put it out in the ecosystem because I just love hearing you talk. You got fire all over you. You're a butt kicker. But here's what I want to talk about. we talked about how you get started. We talked about what it took to take the action. We talked about the result of all that action. Here's the question I have. How do you get started? Because you're 5 years into this like momentum cycle is what I kind of call it. And you have all, the overnight success, right? But really it was 5 or 10 years in the making. What do you say to the person out there who maybe they're 50 pounds overweight? Maybe they have 20 grand in credit card debt. Maybe 2020 wasn't the best year. Maybe their marriage is not as loving or joyful as it could be or should be or they'd like. Where does somebody start? Is it those little wins that you were talking about? Is it accountability? What's worked for you? Let me just ask you that.
So I would say you start with non-negotiables. So in my life, I decided I had to sit down and decide what are my non-negotiables for me. And that was hard because I'm a mom first and, I'm a Christian first and I'm a wife first, I would put myself last always. And what the change was when I got into this fitness world and realizing that like they say, you can't pour from an empty cup. So I had to have some non-negotiables for me, and I had to put that out to everybody around me, my family, my friends, my everybody, that these are my non-negotiables. So my non-negotiables in life they're on my Google Calendar as repeating tasks every single day. So like my non-negotiables are to spend time in my faith. So there's a little thing on my Google Calendar that says Leviticus. So I read my little 1-minute devotional. I sit and have some time in prayer. I listen to my Bible app, and that is a non-negotiable every day. I don't go to bed unless I've had that time. I train every day. So I make my body active every day. And it doesn't matter to me, Brian, like I can be sick and I want to die and I have a migraine and the last thing I want to do is get out of bed. I will literally roll myself onto the floor and do some stretches for 15 minutes of the day.
Amen. Because
it is a non-negotiable in my life. That's it. I train every day. I stay in my faith every day. I tell my kids, I love you every day. Every day. That's like one of the most important things. And it's having those non-negotiables. So it's family, it's faith, it's my health, and it's my business. So I work in my business every single day, whether I'm on vacation or I'm not. And it doesn't have to always be in the same way. It might just be that I respond to all of my voicemails and emails, and I do a post in our business Facebook while I'm on vacation. It might only be 5 minutes, but my non-negotiables every day are my business, my family, my faith, my health, and looking at my goals. So I write my goals, and I try to write my goals every morning and every night. Sometimes it only happens in the morning. Sometimes it only happens in the night. But those are my 5 non-negotiables. And at first, it was hard to keep those non-negotiables. Like I can remember my husband came in one day and I was like, I need this 30 minutes to work out. And he's like, why do you have to work out every day? And I'm like, because I deserve 30 minutes. And that was it. Like he never asked me again why I have to do it, because you do, right? Like you deserve those things. Like your God deserves his time first, and you deserve your 30 minutes, and your family deserves at least that 2 minutes it takes to tell them you love them, and your business deserves some attention every day. So no matter how big or small those non-negotiables are, that's it. Like your day's not over until those things get touched on. And then you just keep growing those things step by step. And the biggest part too is planning it. So that's why I use my Google Calendar, and I share my Google Calendar with my husband, because he can open up our Google Calendar and he sees what I'm doing for the day. And if there's something important that he wants to put in there, he'll be able to see what time blocks that he can do it. And I have it color coded. So after my 411 meeting at the office on Tuesday, I go through and I put in all my tasks that are my weekly tasks. So if I have to make 50 recruiting calls, I put it on Wednesday at 3:00. That's when I'm making my 50 recruiting calls, because I don't want to get to Friday and I haven't done any of the things that I put forth to do. So all of my things are already, so I open my Monday. I already know what I'm doing for Monday from the time I open my eyes till the time I close them, and they're color coded. If it's red, it has to get done no matter what. If it's orange, that's something my husband's doing. If it's yellow, that's something for my son. If it's purple, that's something for my daughter. I literally map out a year's worth of meals. So all the dinners that I'm going to make for my family, those are all on there. I food prep on Sundays, so I don't have to think about what I'm going to eat for lunch. Like, everything is set up. So I just, set it and forget it. And it seems like a lot of work at first, but it literally makes so it saves you time. It saves you money. It saves you choices. It saves you calories. It saves you from getting to the end of the week and realizing that you've done nothing with your spouse and nothing with your faith, but you worked really hard, but your kids don't know that you love them, right?
Right.
So setting up those non-negotiables and then planning them out when you're going to do them. So I know every night at 4:30, I'm going to the gym, right? And then I have some stuff that's blue, and those are things that if I get it done, that's great. If I don't, I can move it. And then I have what I call the Day of the Frogs, right? So there's that book called Eat the Frog, where you do the hardest things first, right?
We've talked about this.
I have the Day of the Frogs. Yeah, the Day of the Frogs means all the stuff that I moved from other days of the month. When I get to, January 29th, that's my Day of the Frogs for the month. I have to do everything I put off for the month. So anything that I didn't get to that wasn't a needle mover, it wasn't super vital, but it was important enough to put on my calendar, I have to spend that day, and I don't go to bed until all those things get done. And most of the time, here's the funny thing, most of the time those are things that don't take a lot of time. Sometimes I'll be like, why did I put that off? Just because it's something I hadn't done before, so it was new, so I didn't really feel like doing it. I thought it was going to take a long time, even if it didn't. But I don't let those things bleed into the next month. I don't let them bleed into, it's the end of the year and I never got it done. Like, if I cared about it enough to put it on my calendar, I do it on the Day of the Frogs. And if I just don't, then I just take it off my calendar. Obviously, it's not a needle mover. It's not important enough to do on the Day of the Frogs. I'm just getting rid of it. So I am, like you were saying, I'm astringent about my goals, but flexible about my methods. So if my goal is to work out 1,300 times this year, if I'm going to CrossFit and all of a sudden I hate CrossFit, I'm not doing CrossFit anymore. I'm going to do yoga. Or if I'm doing yoga and I hate it, I'm going to start running. So when people say I want to lose weight, they usually default to I need to run or I need to lift weights. Well, if you hate running and you hate lifting weights, then go swim. Right. Go do yoga. Like, find a way to make yourself fall in love with what you're doing, or don't do it. Because if you don't love it, if you don't enjoy it, you're going to quit it. So you have to find ways, like for church, for example, we had been going to a church where my family had always went to that church. Well, we didn't love it. When we went, it kind of was like monotonous. We kind of left, like we didn't really get a lot out of the message. So when we moved, we did like a church tour to find what was going to be our church home. Where did we leave feeling like we got a lot out of this? The kids loved it. We loved it. And then we landed where we loved. And then the next year, it wasn't that we were at the end of the year and we still had 13 times to go. We went an extra time. We went 53 times, you know?
Yep.
So when it's not working, don't keep forcing it. Be astringent about that goal and flexible about the methods, and find something that you love. You're going to find something that will help you lose weight that you like, whether it's roller skating. One of my friends, she hula hoops. You know, just keep trying new things till you find something you really like. And then if you stop liking it, don't be afraid to trash it and try something new, as long as it's still getting you towards that goal.
My gosh, like if you guys are excited and fired up as I am right now, so I mean, and here's the thing, you got to go back and listen to this podcast 2 or 3 times. I mean, maybe honestly, ironically enough, set a goal to listen to this podcast once a week for 52 weeks, because I mean, you can't listen to Trisha talk and not be fired up. Even if your wood's wet, like listen to this for 3 or 4 weeks, you're going to dry out and you're going to catch on fire with the rest of us, because I wrote down a couple of things you said. You said your non-negotiables. I love that. I love what you said about you can't fill up somebody else's cup if yours is empty. I love that. I subscribe to that. Liz and I both are like, look, you know, we need our own personal time. Like I can't be there for Liz if I'm empty, and she can't be there for me if she's empty. We've all heard if the airplane decompresses, right? Like put your mask on first. Well, you might want to be the guru for everybody, but if you're not filling yourself up and your cup is running over, it's going to be impossible for you to pour into others. And frankly, And that's exactly how it is with me in this podcast. You guys got to realize that every time I pour it out there, I'm kind of emptied. But, to be able to do another podcast, I got to refill. So imagine how much I got to keep refilling to keep popping it, out to you guys 3 days a week or 5 days a week, like my friend Paul does. We have to fill up to pour it out. And if you don't put it in, it's extremely hard to pour it out. One thing I wanted to cover right here, I love what you said about 1 hour of going to CrossFit for the day. We've all heard this, as to just maybe to help you guys with some excuses that we all have out there. We got them. 1 hour in your work day is only 4% of your actual day. So 1 hour is only 4% of your day. And you're like, that doesn't make any sense. There's no way. Like, you're going to go get your calculator out. Trust me. When I heard that and I was letting things beat me, you know what I mean? I was like, wait a minute. This thing is beating me and it only requires 4% of my day. Like, I don't want to be a squid and let something as simple as working out or again, if you're reading 30 minutes a day, that's only like what, 2% of your day? You're like, oh, I can't find time. I can't get it done. Folks, it's 2% of your day. Like, what the hell else are we doing out there? Get off Facebook, get off Instagram. You know what I'm saying? I heard somebody say this a long time ago, and this really helped me when I was 19, 20, because I was not a reader. So a friend of mine said, you got to start reading success books. And I was like, well, I don't like to read. He goes, well, that's cool. I didn't ask you if you liked it. He's like, I just said, do it. And we've all heard like that joke. And my buddy used that on me. And I go, I don't have time. He goes, 10 pages a day is a book a month and 52 books a year. He goes, read the top 50 success books on entrepreneurship or John Maxwell or Darren Hardy. He goes, read them and tell me if your life isn't significantly better 1, 2, 3 years later. I mean, it's just, there's no excuses. Something else I wrote down that you just made me think, which was really good. Next time you say you don't have time, just say it's not a priority. And just be honest. If it's not on your calendar, like to get with your parents or your brothers and sisters or family dinner, and you're like, oh, I just don't have time. Just say they're not important. And that might cut, but that's just the truth, right? So if it's important to you, you'll find time. And then Trisha, here's one that I say till I'm blue in the face, and I got it from Darren Hardy, who's another real estate guy, which I'm sure you know of him. He said, you never quite own success. You can only rent it, and rent is due every single day. And I've said that 100 times on my podcast. And trust me, there's not a day when I wake up and I go, man, look at everything we've accomplished. Whatever, right? We've all done good stuff. But what have we done today? Like, I can't hang my hat on anything I did yesterday. I don't work that way. I don't think you can work that way. I think you're only as good as your last win, your last at bat, your last, score. So crush it today. And here's the thing. We all wake up and we've all done nothing. And you get to earn it every single day. And in fact, if you don't keep earning it every single day, you will realize really quickly that might slip out of your hands. Because we always say on my podcast, Trisha, the only way to coast is downhill. So that's what I got for the things I pulled out of what you were just fire breathing. I was like, it's like drinking out of a fire hose. I love it. We're so blessed to have you on the show, on the show. I don't know what the hell show we got, but the podcast, we're rusty. We're still getting the rust out from the new year, but, well, let me do this. I try to do open mic, if you will, with my podcast guests. I sincerely thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything that you want, like last takeaway or last nugget or something that maybe you could leave our audience before we wrap this thing up? But if not, we'll button it up there.
Just one more.
Yeah.
You made me think of it. So here is something that I do with my coaching clients, my realtors that I coach, because of course in real estate, I get a lot of I'm too busy. So I have them for 3 days. They have to take a little notebook around with them or just use the notes thing in their phone. I make them do a minute by minute log of their day from the time they open their eyes till the time they go to sleep. I mean, everything. Like I showered from 6 a.m. to 6:05. I ate breakfast from 6:05 to 6:03. And I make them do that for 3 days. And I come back to them and I said, well, so what did you figure out? Because they always say, I'm really busy, but I'm not closing enough deals. And, we closed, like you said, we were really blessed. We closed 6 million more this year than last year in a time when we got shut down for 3 months.
Right.
So
wow.
I recruited 30 more agents this year. So being able to have massive growth like that takes a lot of being intentional. So when you come to me and you say you're really busy, but nothing's coming out of it, I know there's something missing there. So I had like one of my girls came, she said, I'm working 40 to 60 hours a week. And so I had her do the minute by minute thing. I say, so what'd you find? She goes, I work 3.5 hours a week.
Yep.
A whole week.
Yep.
Literally, when she put together the minute by minute thing, she only spent 3.5 hours doing business activities. Now, she was in the office for over 40 hours, but she was talking, she was drinking coffee, she's getting lost in things.
Yep. It's so good.
Whenever you say I'm too busy, whenever you start to use that, I'm too busy, take 3 days and do a minute by minute catalog of everything that you do, and you will see every single person I've had do it. It is a mind blower. They're like, oh my goodness, because you see me, I'm like a no excuses person. If I can have 5 kids that all play different sports, that all go to different schools, gotta drop off all these places and have 4 businesses, and I can find time to do 2 workouts a day and the volunteer at school for lunch mom and still do all those things. If you are intentional about your time, you can do, like you said, everything you want to do. So take that minute by minute inventory and then start doing the things that count. Like you said, reading, doing the workouts, being intentional with your time, because every minute is a blessing and you have a lot of them in a day to be able to capitalize on.
Gosh, that's so good. I heard Darren Hardy say, you don't have one day, you got 86,000 minutes or whatever, or 6,000 minutes, or it's like, it's so funny you say that, because from somebody who's a high achiever like yourself, here's what I've tried to say till I'm blue in the face, is that people look at me sometimes, Trisha, and they go, well, you do this, and you got Instagram, and you got podcasts, and 100,000 subs on YouTube, and a real business. There's no way you do it all. And I go, to be totally fair, I work my lawn and landscape business about 32 to 38 hours a week. The mower runs for about 24 hours straight, which is pure productivity. The mower's making us, $60 to $100 per hour when that thing's moving. I said to make 3 Instagram posts a day, which I don't even do. I make like 1 or 2 at 5 minutes each. We're talking 15 minutes a day. When we talk about 3 YouTube videos a week, it's, let's say 2 hours per video. That's 6 hours. Okay, so when you really look at it, I worked my business 32 to 40 hours. I ran my social media maybe 10 to 15 hours. I mean, really maybe 10 hours. And people go, how can you do all this stuff? I go, frankly, like, I actually don't do as much as you think. Like when you really break down the time, and I'm not trying to sound like a hero either. I'm telling you guys straight up, like what Trisha said is so true. If you look at the amount of hours or minutes that you do per day, I am actually, and this sounds really like humbly and pretentiously at the same time, but I feel really mad at myself for how little I do. I'm like, I'm a loser, I feel, half the time, because I'm like, I should be doing 5 videos a week. I should be making 6 Instagram posts a week. I should have a 5-day-a-week podcast. And that's how it is when you're a winner and you start realizing these things. You get rid of the noise. You get rid of the stupid stuff. Like half of you guys, you guys listening. Hey Trisha, let me ask you this. And this is a funny one, little tee up. What was your family's TV goal last year? You forgot to mention that. How many hours did you guys want to hit with TV last year?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And you know what's funny is people will be like, when do you sleep? And I'm like, I legit sleep 8 to 10 hours a night. And they're like, Amen. No way. And I'm like, I do. I said, but I haven't watched any of your Netflix specials. But I have slept 8 to 10 hours every night because I know that my body recovers when I sleep. I'm clear-headed when I sleep. I don't wear busy like a badge of honor. Like so many people wear busy as a badge of honor. I'm not busy. I am intentional and organized. I'm just organized, and I delegate. That's a big thing too. I delegate anything that doesn't need to be done by me. If it doesn't need to be done by me, I'm going to delegate it out to somebody else. And when you are able to do that and be intentional about your time, like you said, and be able to maximize those minutes, it's everything. It's everything.
Well, and just to, wrap up our little success seminar here, because I know everybody hears about the shadow box and punch somebody because we're all fired up. But what you said is really good. Because, and it's so interesting because I always say on my podcast, Trisha, like, and I've said it, the guys listening, they know, I say there's certain levers you pull to get the results. And Liz and I have found like the levers that hit the results for us, whether it's relationally, health-wise, especially for Liz, she's on that. But YouTube and social media and our lawn care business, you got to take inventory of the things that actually make you money. And I know in real estate, and you can correct me, but I know it's recruiting. I know it's how many phone calls you're doing, and I also know that it's not how many homes you're showing. Anybody can show the home. It's negotiating the contract, and that's when you get paid. And I know that because I've studied a crap ton about real estate and real estate pros, because they are like really good guru type success people. So I love modeling a lot of what I've done off of a guy named Darren Hardy. And he's, an incredible real estate guy when he was doing it for 4 or 6 years. And so like, I love what you said, like busy is not a badge of honor. Like, I don't care how long you were doing something. I just want the result. Figure out a way to do it better.
Right.
And if you shouldn't be doing it, get rid of it, hire it out, get rid of it, have somebody else do it. Like, doesn't mean you're better than anybody. It's just, you got to know what moves that needle forward. And for us, it's keeping the mowers moving. It's keeping the trimmers going. It's keeping the guys moving. And for Trisha, it's making sales calls and closing deals and recruiting people to expand her brand. So I love this. I can't believe we went an hour, because I said, I don't want to take your whole day. And I said, we're at 58 minutes, girl. So,
oh my goodness.
You have a open invite to come back on our show anytime. I know there's a lot of guys that listen to the show. There's a lot of ladies that listen to the show too. And I know, that if this girl can do it, then it's going to motivate all my, red-blooded males out there that are all butt kickers, right, guys? So if Trisha can do it, you guys can do it. Hey, Trisha, if people do want to keep up with you, or they want to buy a home from you, in Michigan, where can they find you and your real estate company, and just your Instagram and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. EliteRealtyMI.com. EliteRealtyMI.com. We are in Livonia, but we work for the whole state of Michigan. So I sell houses in Tawas and Grand Rapids and Grand Haven, and of course all around Northville, Novi, in this general area. I currently have, I just boarded 10 more agents. So I think we're like at 90 agents. So we have a great team. Facebook, just Trisha Dork. Instagram, Trisha Dork. I like to keep it simple. But if you Google Elite Realty, we're the first ones that come up in anywhere in Michigan. We're ready to help for sure.
I love it. Well, if you guys are listening to the podcast, you guys know I always say this. Besides leaving the 5-star ratings and review, if you guys are getting anything out of the show, we super appreciate when you guys take the time to leave those 5-star worded ratings and reviews. They really do help the podcast with the social proofing and the ratings, and getting it bumped up on the algorithm. But I always love when you guys share the podcast on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, and you guys tag us, you repost a screenshot, or, the little sound clip when you guys do the screen record. But tag myself and tag Trisha Dork. It's at Trisha, TRISHA DORK. And give her a follow on Instagram. She's not just a real estate agent. She is a butt kicking, fire breathing woman, and she is somebody who motivates Liz and I all the time. We knew we were kindred spirits, because Liz and I, like, we're very like private people. We're kind of crazy because we're like success people, And Liz goes, trust me, like, you'll love this lady. She's amazing. She thinks like us. She's crazy like us. And we were,
thank you.
Yeah, right. Like, that's a weird compliment, but in all sincerity, like, we appreciate you more than you know. We are so proud of you guys and your family. And you know what, frankly, like, I'm excited to see all the success that you've worked for come your way. Like, you deserve it. You're a butt kicker. I think you are the tip of the spear about what you're doing. And, you motivate Liz and I, like, sincerely. We love you guys. So that's what I got, girl. But anything else you want to leave? But if not, we'll button this thing up.
I'm good. I can't believe I talked for a whole hour, but I told you I love goals, right? I went in like forewarning that I could talk about this for 5 days.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Well, we'll have the little. We'll get like a little series going. Like, we'll have Motivation Monday with Trisha Dork, amen, or something like that. I don't know, but
yes, I love it.
All right, girl. Well, that's it from this episode of Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with a really special guest of ours, Trisha Dork. Don't forget to give her a follow on Instagram and Facebook. But hey, guys, that's it for this episode, and we will look forward to catching up with you guys here on the next one.
Man, it is sure good to be back hanging with you guys. Marty here. Now, if you're new to the show, nice to meet you. I'm the audio engineer, podcast producer, VO guy, and the butt of occasional jokes for the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Now, I am working today on some of those ratings and review segments that Brian was talking about, so make sure and get yours in at Apple Podcasts right away. Now, spring, it's going to be here before you know it. In your marketing, it starts now. Slide on over to launchpreneuracademy.com and get that beautifully designed postcard program. It is no secret that marketing your business with postcards is certainly one of the most effective ways to grow your company. Now, this proven direct marketing approach has an incredible ROI. These postcard designs give you the ability to add your company logo, phone number, and of course, a call to action. Just download, print, and market. It's never been more simple to grow your business. LaunchpreneurAcademy.com to get started. And of course, thanks to Nick Carlson and his team at Cartmate for sponsoring today's episode. Expedite your productivity. Introducing Cartmate Pro and RS by Dawson Manufacturing. This industry-leading front-mounted zero-turn articulating cart mounts to the front of the mower you already own, making you more profitable. With the ability to move mulch, leaves, dirt, and much, much more 2 to 3 times faster and dump your load effortlessly, you'll increase productivity while reducing labor costs. What could you do with the extra time? I'm sure your wife has an idea. Order your Cartmate Pro today at mulchmateusa.com and never wheelbarrow again. That's mulchmateusa.com or text Labor Saver to 31996. That's Labor Saver to 31996 for exclusive deals, info, and maybe even some freebies. Normal text messaging rates apply.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
This has been a Brian Fullerton and Mr. Producer production.